Hey, this is Kristen from Drive Mode Show, and today I have the pleasure of talking to Mike Quincy from Consumer Reports. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
Good. You are in Connecticut, right?
Connecticut, and like a lot of people, working out of my dining room because we're not being able to go to the office these days.
Yeah, I know it. I know it. And what's that like? Like, you've been with Consumer Reports now for how long?
Oh, a long time. I started in 1993 in the home office in Yonkers, New York, and I was writing stories for the magazine and their special interest publications like the new car buying guide and used car buying guide and whatnot. And and then we slowly, got a website, which was like a big deal for magazine people. But then during the dot-com boom of the early 2000s, I was lured away to a automotive based startup in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
Hence my connection to the Texas auto writers. And the idea was to build a website to sell cars online. And as the saying goes, it was fun while it lasted. But then after that kind of an implosion, I was asked to come back to Consumer Reports by the director of automotive testing. And so I've been working full time at the test track here in Connecticut since 2001.
How did you know that cars was your thing?
I really have no idea. I guess as a kid, my favorite toys to play with were Matchbox cars, Hot Wheels cars, Corgi toys. We built racetracks. We built roads in our sandboxes. I grew up watching all the car races on TV with my dad. Mark Donahue was one of my favorite IndyCar drivers. Richard Petty was a great stock car driver. And I just loved going to car shows. I was the only one in my family of three kids who would willingly go and go car shopping with my dad. My dad was a real car guy. He's a MIT trained engineer, and so he really got me into it. I was the only one of his kids that got into cars, and all along growing up, my mom said, "Gee, wouldn't it be great if you could somehow take this interest of cars and make a living out of it?" So combining my love of writing and the love of cars, and it just seemed to make sense.
It made sense. It seems like a lot of people's dads got them into cars at a pretty young age, and that's how we end up where we are. For me, it was my dad taking us to car shows all the time. Of course, my sister was not affected in any way. She has her Honda Odyssey. She's on her second Honda Odyssey. The first one lasted 10 years, and now she's on her second one. That's all she cares about.
Well, and that's really, kind of the way it is for a lot of people. Cars are not a passion. They're an appliance. They get you from A to B. They pick up kids. They go grocery shopping. They get you to and from work, and that's about it. And I guess that's kind of the cool thing about working at Consumer Reports is we have information for people that's all they care about. But what's also great is that I work with people who genuinely love cars. So we can look at it from an enthusiast standpoint. As you know, I'm a big fan of pickup trucks. I love coming to the Texas Truck Rodeo every year. And so there's that side of it. And I think Consumer Reports as an organization has kind of morphed from being, sensible and practical to, okay, people also, take an emotional approach to when it comes to buying a new car. And I'm glad that the organization I'm working for is able to now really embrace all of it.
It sounds like fun. What is it like to test a car? I know you have a test track and you're not there now, right? So first of all, what is that like? And then I want you to talk about how you're adapting.
Well, it is really an incredible privilege to be able to like look over my shoulder at my work desk, not like my living room desk, at my work desk at the track, and see a 327 acre test facility. We're the only independent publication that has its own test track, and nothing against the folks that work at the magazines I grew up idolizing, the Cart, Driver, Road and Track. They don't have their own test tracks, and so coming to Consumer Reports, it was like, wow, this is incredible. which means that at any time, if you're going through like a lulls of the afternoon where, lunch is settled in and you're kind of slumping behind your desk, like, okay, I'm going to push away from my desk. I'm going to get into a hot car and pull some laps around the handling circuit. That'll wake you up better than a cup of coffee.
Heck yeah.
And that's my dog. uh, and so I mean, working at the track is a lot of fun, and it's we buy a test car, we bring it into the shop and make sure it's all up to specs. So that means like the wheels are torqued properly, the air pressure is correct, all the mechanicals are working exactly as the factory intended to. So then we put the car out on the road, and we put about 2,000 miles on it before we bring it back in, check it in, and then do all of our form. So as you and probably a lot of folks know, Consumer Reports buys all of its test cars. We don't take any freebies from the manufacturer. We spend about $2 million a year buying cars. And that kind of, it allows us to be independent. It allows us to make sure that we're testing models that are representative of what everyone else brings. Sorry for the long answer.
No, I love it. I think it's fascinating. I think it would be fascinating to have a test track that you can just jump on whenever you want.
Well, yeah, we have to. I mean, I should backtrack on that a little bit. When we're doing formal testing, you can't just go out and have fun. I mean,
right.
It's not like we have like an air traffic controller, but we have a central place where you tell the receptionist, the person answering the phones and kind of running the place, this is Mike. I'm going to be on the track and in the handling circuit, or this is Mike. I'm going to be shooting a video on the straightaway or whatever. So we really do have to coordinate it. We've got blinking lights of different colors to make sure that people know. We have a whole full-time maintenance crew at the track, so they need to know if they need to go out and do some work, where are other people, and it's a whole thing.
What has been, name a couple of the cars that you have found the most exciting to drive around the track?
Well, that's a good question. I think as we've evolved, I mean, I grew up in the era where, all the cars were kind of, front engine, rear wheel drive. And then as I got older, we really kind of morphed into front wheel drive. And then, nowadays, more and more cars are all wheel drive. So I find it very refreshing to drive like a rear wheel drive car on the track. Almost any rear wheel drive car brings that sense of balance that I think is sort of missing with the front wheel drive or all wheel drive. I think every Corvette that Consumer Reports has tested has been thrilling. I think they just keep getting better and better. But on the other hand, I also totally subscribe to the mindset that it's more fun to drive a slow car fast. So like the Mazda Miata, not tons and tons of horsepower, but such an incredible balance, such a lightweight platform, a nice shifting manual transmission. That to me, those two cars definitely jump to mind.
The Fiat 124 Abarth also comes to mind for me. That one's so fun to just skid around the track. The back end just flies around.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I think that's an underrated car. I mean, it's kind of in the shadow of the Miata, but I'm with you on the 124.
Do you also drive some of the luxury cars, or do you keep mostly to the mainstream?
We buy and test them all. I mean, I remember the first time we started testing like the high-end Lexus and Infiniti models. We got a few angry letters and emails from people like, how are you spending so much money? But the truth is that Consumer Reports members, well, that we used to call them subscribers, now we call them members. Consumer Reports fans who answer our surveys, they own all these cars. They own a Lexus LS. They own a Mercedes-Benz S-Class. They own the high-end Genesis models and Infinitis. So we get owner satisfaction and reliability data on all of those things. So we definitely test them all. We have the Cadillac CT5 at the test track now. That's a remarkably good car, really well balanced. Like it a lot. So we definitely we'll test all the Toyotas and Camrys when they get redesigned, and we have a huge audience that's interested in luxury cars, especially, believe it or not, Tesla.
I agree with you on the Lexus as well. I think the Lexus Lc 500, especially the hybrid, is so fun. I mean, it's a $100,000 car, so it's not for everybody. but it is a beautiful, wonderful car to drive.
Yeah, it's super fast too.
Super fast. And you were talking, you mentioned Tesla real quickly. What do you think is going to happen with Tesla next? Like, what do you see them doing?
Wow, that well, that opens up a can of worms. Tesla has a real edge to them. I mean, there are the Tesla,
You can say
fanboys.
skip or pass.
No, it's okay. It's the fans of Tesla are always on the edge and are waiting for the next sign of the cross from Elon Musk or something like that. Listen, they from Consumer Reports testing standpoint, they're pretty remarkable cars. Tesla has forced all the auto manufacturers to rethink their approach to electric cars. Years ago, no one thought there would be a market for electric cars. And again, from a technical standpoint, the Tesla Model S, the Model 3 did really, really well in Consumer Reports testing. The Model X, not so much. Model X has serious reliability issues according to our surveys. Those gull wing doors and lots of squeaks and rattles and quality issues in the interior has definitely hurt the Model X's score. But I will say that the caveat in all this is electric cars are generally about less than 2% of the whole market. So we're talking about a relatively small kind of niche of car. Without the Tesla Model 3, electric vehicle sales would be even smaller than they are. The Model 3 has really carried almost the entire electric vehicle market. I'm a road trip guy, so I'm not a huge fan of electric cars because you have to keep stopping, and it gets colder. You're seeing a loss of driving range. I can see it making sense for people that have a short commute, and I guess on average, the average American has about maybe a 20 miles or less commute. So it makes a lot of sense for a lot of people, but for me, I'm still. If I'm interested in fuel economy and a long driving distance, I'm going to go for like a hybrid.
I have to agree with you there too. The last Tesla I drove was the P85D, and I was thrilled with the torque. I mean, it really takes off so fast, and it's fun. But, we do a lot of driving too. We live in Texas, and driving across Texas is not a small feat. And you could go from Metropolis through some really rural areas that are not going to have any kind of charging stations along the way. So that would be impractical for us just between here and my in-laws' place. A couple of months ago, I guess it was, there was this event called Fully Charged here in Austin, and it was all about EVs. A lot of Tesla fans, of course, but people are really excited. That 2% of people are really excited about the possibilities. And the one company that I am excited about is Rivian. I think Rivian, with their 3-row SUV, is going to really take off, and I hope that they do.
Well, that's kind of it's good to have kind of a diversity when it comes to transportation. We shouldn't sit back and thinking that the internal combustion engine is the be all and the end all forever, because it probably isn't. You have European countries and cities saying, in the near future, we're banning basically all internal combustion vehicles within the confines of our cities. So you have to do something to diversify. But I mean, whenever you say anything even slightly negative about whether it's Tesla or electric vehicles, people like that they get all worked up about it. But like you, I mean, I have a sister that lives in Washington, D.C. That's about a 5.5 to 6 hour drive from where I live here in Connecticut. And yes, it can be done in an electric vehicle because there are a number of EV charging spots between New York City and Washington, D.C., but it would probably take twice as long.
True.
And I'm not going to do it. When I'm on a road trip, I mean, I'm going to maybe stop for coffee. I'm going to stop for gas. I'm going to stop to use the bathroom. Other than that, I'm hitting the road. I'm playing music, and I'm more than happy to just keep cruising. So for me, the EVs don't quite do it, but who knows what the future will be.
Getting away from EVs, but back into the mainstream, what do you think are some of the most underrated cars out there? cars that people don't talk about as much, but that you thought were really impressive and smart?
I think the whole Genesis line. I think that the Genesis G70 is kind of like a BMW 3 Series competitor. I think this car does not get the respect it deserves just because it flies under the radar. People don't think about Genesis. They think, oh, it's just like a Hyundai or is it a Kia or whatever, forget it. I would say anyone who's in the market for like a smaller sports sedan, definitely check out the G70. It has great controls, super easy to live with, excellent seats, incredible handling, a 4-cylinder turbo power or a sweet V6. And on the same lines, I would also say that the Kia Stinger, another model, totally underrated. It came out to a lot of fanfare. I love the design. I love the kind of the swoopy hatchbacky approach to this car. Same mechanicals as the Genesis. I think this is a great car. I could easily live with either of them every day. And those are ones that I think just definitely deserve more love than they're getting. I mean, just sedans overall. I mean, we're living in this era of pickup trucks and SUVs, which I like and I really get into. But on a day-to-day basis, what I'd rather drive most times is probably a sedan. So just the whole sedan market, I think, is underrated.
I agree. I love a good sedan, and I have a 2020 Hyundai Sonata Limited in my driveway right now that I'm looking forward to driving a couple hours across Texas in a little bit to go to my in-laws' cabin.
The new Sonata is really impressive.
It is really impressive. I mean, even aside from the smart pack, I think it has a lot going for it.
Now, the Texans not understand what they're saying there.
I don't think so. It is a good-looking sedan. It has some really nice touches, and I agree with you about the Stinger. It's been about 3 years since that came out, and I haven't heard much about it lately, but I still think it has a lot going for it.
Definitely. The thing about the Kias and the Hyundais and the Genesis are the controls. I mean, I still keep going back to that. There was a time when smartphones were slowly gaining traction, and I never really thought much about it. But nowadays, it isn't so much how much horsepower does your car have. It's can my phone pair to my car okay? I mean,
that's true.
If I were buying a car right now, and I'm lucky because I don't have to own a car. I'm driving all the test cars. But if I had to actually go out and buy a car, I wouldn't buy one if it wasn't Android Auto compatible. I was like, forget it. I wouldn't even do it. Which is such a change from my mentality of, cars are just all, mechanics and engineering, and now it's more software. So that's talk about the changing automotive landscape.
I think that's true. I think the general public, when they're looking for cars, do you think it's true that they care less about the horsepower and torque and may not even know what that is or like how that translates to their everyday life? What they want to know is how many people can it seat? Can it fit my technological needs? Is it going to have the safety features that I want? Do you find that to be true?
I think that's definitely the way things are going. I mean, there were a few auto manufacturers like Toyota, which is a great company. I mean, they do incredible things, but they were very, very slow to embrace Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. And I know they're very cautious. They're a conservative company, but holy cow, guys, you got to get into that game. And now they're finally saying, okay, we're going to allow a couple more vehicles to have Android Auto, but their whole line doesn't have it, which to me is just mind blowing. But in terms of buying, I think that's really the way that things are going these days. I mean, my oldest son is 20 years old. And he's totally into Tesla. He loves the technology. And the first Tesla that I brought home, he got in and he saw this enormous center screen. And he's like, "Oh my God, it's just like an iPad." And
it is.
That's kind of what he fixated on at first. Now he's also more of like the car guy that I was when I was a kid. So now he's good at getting into more, horsepower. And he's very proud of himself to be able to, his day-to-day car is a manual transmission Honda Civic Si, which I'm like,
good choice. Very good choice.
But I mean, I even forgot where we're going with this question. But the technology for his generation is probably going to be, first about how does it deal with my phone rather than like how fast it is.
I think that's true. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out and how the trends change over the next couple of years. And speaking of the next couple of years and the next couple of months, maybe, how do you think the automakers are going to react and adapt to what's going on?
Well, certainly we've seen it from an automotive journalism standpoint, where we're not going to the Geneva Auto Show or we're not going to New York. This is the first time in, I don't know, 20 something years that I haven't gone to the New York Auto Show because it's canceled. Maybe that's going to rewrite everything. Maybe as you and I, as journalists, we're going to be approaching new vehicle introductions in a different way. In terms of retail sales, I'm sure that the U.S. auto sales number, calendar year 2020, is going to see a huge hit, just like everything else, just like restaurants and movie theaters and bars and everything else. But maybe that is a kind of a wake-up call for how retail is going to be done. Maybe people don't need to make as many trips to the dealer as they have in the past. Maybe more transactions are going to be done on your computer or on your phone. But again, I have to put my Consumer Reports hat back on, and we always tell people, make sure that you test drive the car. I mean, I don't think anything is going to take the place of that. You still need to see if that car fits you, your body. You might have long legs or a short torso, or vice versa. You might be, 5 feet tall. You might be 6 foot 5 feet tall. You have to make sure that the seat fits you. You have to make sure that you can reach everything at the instrument panel. You need to make sure that visibility is good all around you as you're driving. It's not enough to take, Kristen's word for it or Mike Quincy's word for it. You have to make sure that the car fits you. So I don't think that's ever going to change. You're still going to need to take a good test drive. But in terms of from a retail standpoint, I think that any possible sale that a automotive retailer can have in the next few months, they're going to be just saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I have a friend that just ordered the new Genesis SUV online. He wanted to order it. He wanted to customize it. He was excited after he saw my pictures of it from the Genesis launch. And he hasn't sat in it. He hasn't even seen it in person, but he's so excited about it. He went ahead and ordered it. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool, and pretty brave.
That's certainly working for Tesla. And you brought up Rivian before. I think I don't know how much money they already have in deposits, but you think, holy cow, they have not even cranked up a production line yet, and they're already taking money.
I know. It's pretty incredible, and their prototypes look great. When they've been testing them, their people are really fascinating and interesting, and yeah, I'm really excited to see where they're going to go. Well, you've given us a lot of great information, so I love talking. I could talk to you all day.
Yeah.
Just talk about cars all day, Mike.
Well, that's the thing, and when I'm doing these interviews, sometimes I don't realize that I'm talking so much, and it's one of the first things they tell you when you get any kind of media training is, speak in threes. It's safe, it's reliable, and it's fuel efficient. But then you give me like these open-ended questions about, well, what do you like? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be here for hours.
Well, I used to teach media training, and my background is corporate communications and PR, so I get it. And I think you did great.
And you did the whole bridge thing. If they ask you a question that isn't on what you want to talk about, you build the bridge back.
I got you. You did great. Consumer Reports should be proud, and hopefully you'll stay safe and healthy, and that we will get to see each other at the Texas Truck Rodeo this fall. It's always fun to see you.
Oh, keep your fingers crossed. Thanks so much for having me on.
Have a great day, Mike.
You too.
Thanks.